Selena brought it to the forefront and introduced it to the world. But the Texas-based musical genre we call Tejano has a history that goes back decades. Documented accounts say its evolution began in northern Mexico, a variation known as norteño. Then in Texas, in the mid-19th century, it evolved and blended with the introduction of the accordion, influenced by German, Polish, and Czech immigrants. But the accordion wasn't the only instrument adopted by Tejano musicians. A decade or so down the musical evolutionary road, brass horns were added, so too pianos and organs. Its influence then, American jazz and big bands, further evolving Tejano into where we are today.
They are the voices and melodies long forgotten. The music, mere echoes of the indigenous people whose genetic makeup was a mixture of Native American, Spanish, European, with a dash of assimilation. A unique melding of what would one day be the impetus, the inspiration for millions of Tejano artists.
Es una mezcla, la música es una mezcla.
Manuel Ayala is among a handful of South Texas music historians who says to know our music is to know our culture, and more importantly, the language, which in and of itself is unique. We've heard much of the Native American Navajo windtalkers who used their language to elude the enemy during World War II while using radio communications. So too, the Tejanos.
Ellos hablaban un idioma que el enemigo iba y agarraba el diccionario español de Velázquez y buscaba las palabras y nunca las encontró. ¿Sabes por qué no las encontró? Porque era Tex-Mex. Por eso, pero era Tex-Mex, no era español, era el idioma que se formó en los barrios del sur de Texas.
The evolutionary movement turned into a culture, from clothing to music, embracing American styles and adopting a cooler version of dress in the 40s and 50s, which ushered in the Zoot Suit era, turned Chicano in the 60s and 70s. Along the way, the culture's music also evolved.
Es una mezcla de la canción americana, and we grabbed it y le metimos el sabor mexicano.
Dr. Alberto Rodriguez, Associate Professor and Director of the Mexican American Studies Institute at Texas A&M Kingsville, calls this Texas-based music an original American genre.
To me, the history of Tejano music it's embedded. It's embedded in our culture. It's been there before I was born.
There is no better platform or venue to discuss the origins of our music, nuestra música, than on programs such as Domingo Live, since the show has provided a stage for some of the most iconic artists in the industry since 1964. It is, after all, the longest-running, locally produced, community-based, music-driven show in the nation. Another venue would be in the classroom, specifically in a university setting where tenured professors have studied this unique art form. I spent some time with one such scholar who not only teaches about the subject, but has lived the life of a South Texas fan of the industry.
As an academic, as a Tejanito, as a fronterizo, it's part of my everyday life.
In fact, Dr. Alberto Rodriguez, Associate Professor and Director of the Mexican American Studies Institute at Texas A&M University Kingsville, says Tejano music is part of his everyday life, calling this Texas-based music an original American genre.
It keeps on evolving. It's part of the community. It's part of storytelling. It's part of the plight. It's part of the struggle. But at the same time, it's also a celebration of the resilience, how resilient our community has been.
This music is no doubt a regionalized genre, with its biggest popularity being in what's known as the Tejano Triangle, the area between Houston, San Antonio, Laredo, and south to the valley. Now, pockets, both large and small, do exist in other areas of the state where traditional Mexican-American communities make up segments of the population. But Dr. Rodriguez points out the popularity of Tejano isn't limited to Texas.
It's connected to Mexico, and it's connected to how people travel all around what we call the diaspora, whether you be in Yakima, Washington, or you be in Denver, Colorado, or in Houston and Dallas. El Sonido Tejano is there.
The evolution of Tejano began long ago, decades in fact, when many Mexican Americans took to the fields and migrated to areas of our nation to pick nature's harvest.
Not only did I grow up in the valley, I was a migrant farm worker till 18, so I saw the music move with people also to Colorado and to other places.
Where the Texas migrants went, so too their music, many of them deciding not to return back home, thus planting their own Tejano roots in places like the Central Valley of California, Washington State, all up and down the Midwest and into southern Florida. Where the fertile ground is, so too you'll find former Texans and their beloved genre. The music evolved, but hasn't really changed.
And that's what's so beautiful about this music, right? And it doesn't disappear. The Tejano music doesn't do that. You know, it just kind of like evolves, you know. And what an amazing story, right? It tells you not only about the music, but the people.
It is the music and the young people of the culture today who are now in the middle of an identity evolution, taking the genre into a new generation. However, there is a struggle.
Well, how am I supposed to find my space? How am I supposed to find my sound of what I want to do? But then I got to play by all these rules of people that are saying what Tejano is and what Tejano isn't.
Since day one, back in 1964, Domingo Peña hosted a first-of-its-kind live television show and presented some of the best groups, conjuntos, and big bands Texas had to offer at the time. It also provided a venue to unknowns who went on to become big stars in the industry. You name it, chances are the biggest and best once appeared on Channel 3's airwaves. For 22 years, I have hosted Domingo Live along with Barbie Leo and continue with the tradition of providing a venue for Texas talent. But now there's a change in the works. With the accessibility and convenience literally at our fingertips, we can hear and see the creativity that is Tejano today. The evolution of this original genre is happening, and it isn't stopping.
To die-hard fans, this is Tejano music. But on the proverbial flip side, this is the emerging sound of today's Tejano. Its target zeroing in on the younger, hipper, bilingual demographic. Rio Grande Valley-based Grupo Frontera, who recently appeared on Good Morning America, is collaborating with rapper Bad Bunny. And the same with reggaeton, Latin trap singer Karol G, who paid tribute to Selena with the single Mi Ex Tenía Razón. While it's a massive honor for any Tejano artist to collaborate, it's also a mega hand up for the Tejano music industry. Not since Selena has another Tejano artist reached national acclaim or recognition, much less consistently sell millions of singles, downloads, and CDs every year. There are, however, some exceptions whose popularity have maintained and even grown. Michael Salgado, for example, performs according to where his venue is.
If we're doing a Tejano Mexicano show, then, I'll do country if they ask for country, and if they don't ask for it, I don't do it. So it just depends on the audience.
Another successful Texas-based Tejano artist is Edinburgh's Bobby Pulido.
There's a saying in Spanish that says, ¿Qué prefieres ser, cabeza de ratón o cola de león? And in my case, I'm kind of like a cola de león, but it's such a huge market that I get to tour extensively throughout the U.S. and Mexico, and I don't have to visit the same markets as often.
While the older demographic Tejano fan will always stay true to the old school, whether it be conjunto or big band, what the diehards don't or won't tolerate is change. oftentimes setting lines of demarcation to the detriment of the genre.
If we don't know the direction that we need to go, we're never going to get anywhere.
Had I not evolved to the next level, implementing keyboards and accordion, I wouldn't have had my biggest hits.
In our lifetime, we've enjoyed the original cultural music we all grew up with here in South Texas. Estoy hablando, I'm referring to, de nuestra música tejana, our Tejano music, which, as you may have just noticed, is a mixture of Spanish and English, Spanglish in the Tejano culture. I myself have worked in the industry for years, starting out at age 13 in radio, and throughout that time, I've experienced some of the best our artists have to offer, from Little Joe, Sonny, Freddie, the Dinos, and El Conjunto Bernal to Emilio Mas, and yes, Selena. Each one of those artists are examples of our beloved music and benchmarks of the genre's evolution over our lifetime. Now, we stand at the crossroad of yet another transformation of Tejano music, ushering in the future and where it appears to be headed.
If Tejano music did not leave a footprint, we would have no evolution.
That footprint, Dr. Alberto Rodriguez, professor of the Mexican-American Studies Institute at Texas A&M Kingsville, says was created long ago by the forefathers and foremothers of Tejano music, emboldened by other American, primarily English genres. They dared to take up instruments, compose songs, and sing their hearts out, all in the name of our indigenous American culture.
Like Freddie Fender.
If the teardrops ever start.
Freddie Fender was not a Tejanito, he was a rock and roller, and then he was country, and then he songs in Tejano, right? And so, and that's evolution.
And the evolution of Tejano brings us to those who record and produce the music of today. Just as our predecessors did, so too these new age Tejanos look to other genres for inspiration.
That's what I thought was the whole point of Tejano, was to take a traditional music, dress it up with pop, sounds and styles, and that's what it was. It was about, Tejano kids basically reinterpreting pop music the way they wanted to.
As the generations change in musical tastes, so too the styles. What is Tejano music for some is not Tejano music for all, especially those who believe the sound, albeit unique, has to keep a sense of its basic core. For Gabriel Zavala, who produces his wife Stephanie Montiel's music, the evolution is a combination.
We started fusing sounds that you had never heard in Tejano before. So like one of her first major singles that I had produced for her was a song called Baila Conmigo. And right away, flamenco guitars doing the rhythm on a cumbia, you hadn't heard anything like that.
The artistry is there, the talent, the drive, desire, the motivation, and yet Tejano, as we in South Texas know it, is limited, making up just a tiny slice of the overall Latin music industry pie.
In the pop world, you have a bigger pie, and when you release the music, you know that it's going to cost a lot of money, but we're going to get all that money back. So you're able to invest and make moves. But in our industry, it's like invest, and nothing ever comes back.
So these talented Tejano artists struggle to compete on the national stage. No matter the talent, no matter the drive, the competition for the bigger slice of the pie is simply too massive. Which is why unless a Tejano artist has the right talent, the right management, and the right investment behind him or her, success can only be measured by the size of its audience. Until they create a major hit, they'll have to be content with performing at small clubs and tiny venues. Optimists believe it will happen one day. Until Tejano music can grasp another star such as Selena or Emilio, a star that can appeal to the masses, the evolution of our industry will be a slow one. Rudy Trevino, 3 News.